Claire and I shared a cubicle wall at my last 9 to 5 before everyone started jumping to remote gigs. She was the polite overachiever who baked banana bread for birthdays and opened every phishing training email before HR set reminders. Cautious to a fault. That's why the story she told me later voice thin, eyes fixed on nothing still knots my stomach when I scrolled Craigslist housing ads. In early May, she landed a 2-month contract shoot for a tourism board near Saratoga Springs. Hotels were devouring her per diem, so she hunted for a cheap sublet. Everything inside city limits was triple her budget, until a listing appeared in the regional classifieds group 3 minutes after midnight. Need reliable house sitter for lakefront cottage. June and July only. No pets to mind, just water the porch planters and collect mail. $600 total includes utilities. Perfect for quiet creative. The poster used the initials DT profile, just a year old, but filled with farmers market snapshots and home renovation tips. The cottage sat on Burkrock Lake, a kettle pond ringed by summer cabins, 40 minutes from downtown. Claire messaged. DT replied within 10 minutes, thanking her for saving my vacation, explaining he'd booked a spiritual retreat in Costa Rica on short notice. They set up a video chat. Claire said he looked like a high school guidance counselor. Wire-rimmed glasses, salt and pepper beard, background stacked with holistic health books. He didn't blink at her request for a written contract, emailed a tidy PDF that night, and only asked that she arrive before dusk on June 1st so he could hand off keys and show fuse boxes. Claire forwarded me the contract. Even I thought it looked professional driver license numbers. Dates spelled out, e-signatures. Deposit via Zelle. I was shooting an out-of-state event the day she moved in, so the last message I got read. Signal spotty, but house is cute. Porch swing plus hummingbirds. We'll send pics after unpacking. That was 4:52 p.m. Friday. I didn't hear from her again until Sunday at dawn. Here's what happened in those 36 hours, pieced together from her police statement and the breathy phone call that woke me. Burkrock Lake sits in a bowl of pines that kill cell coverage the moment you crest the ridge. Claire followed DT as email directions left at the hand-painted mailbox shaped like a loon. Keep the water on your right. The cottage looked like a postcard. Cedar shake, red shutters, dock reaching into glass-still water. A silver Subaru Outback idled in the gravel drive. DT stepped from the porch waving. He walked her through everything. Well pump switch. Breaker for the stubborn fridge, extra keys hanging on a deer antler hook by the door. I'm running late for my flight, he said, hefting a duffel into the Subaru. He reminded her to water the planters and lock up if she visited town. As he drove off, she noticed something odd. The license plates were dealer temp tags that expired back in March. She chalked it to DMV backlog and carried her suitcases inside. The interior smelled of lemon oil on old pine boards. A welcome basket sat on the butcher block granola bars. Local map Wi-Fi password scribbled. She texted me a photo that never sent. Then she unpacked, brewed tea, and watched loons dive until the sun slid behind treetops. At 10 p.m., she killed the lights. The lake went pitch except a sodium lamp across the cove. Wind ticked branches on the roof. Around midnight, a sound. Floorboards 2 rooms away, one slow creak. She sat up. Swear she heard a breath. Remember, Claire is the cautious one. She keeps pepper spray on her nightstand. She slid her phone flashlight on no bars. She whispered a hello. Silence. She rationalized old house settling. Made herself sleep. Saturday morning, she found a wet footprint on the kitchen tile bigger than hers. Heel to arch, but no toe marks. As if someone had wiped it halfway. Rain overnight? She checked doors. Latches still set. She told herself humidity can lift grain and wood floors. Pressed the oddity down. Work kept her busy, shooting rising seam coffee mugs in downtown cafes. Back at the cabin, she discovered the Wi-Fi router DT promised, but the modem light blinked red, no signal. She drafted photos offline. That evening, routine, tea, porch swing, frogs tuning up. Around 9, headlights flashed through trees. She assumed neighbors. 10 minutes later, the cottage phone wrangled rotary model she hadn't noticed. She let it go. No voicemail. The ring jarred her because the contract never mentioned a landline. She went to bed with the spray in hand. Sometime after 1, the same floorboard creaked closer now. Hall, outside bedroom. She clicked her flashlight. Nothing. She decided anxiety was turning wind into footsteps. She dozed. A crash snapped her awake kitchen pot hitting tile. Heart racing, she padded to the hall. Air felt colder. From the living room, she heard a man's voice, a single humming note, like testing an echo. She stepped back, barricaded bedroom door with a chair, and dialed 911. No service. Call failed. She typed SOS in notes, ready to send when she had bars. For 30 minutes, she clutched spray, listening. Footsteps moved deliberately. Drawers slid, a door latch clicked. Then silence long enough she wondered if she'd imagined it. Dawn bled gray through curtains. She shoved the chair aside, crept to the living room. Front door stood ajar. A pot from the welcome basket lay dented. The deer antler key hook was empty. On the floor sat a mason jar she hadn't seen before. Label smeared but readable under smudged fingerprints. My quiet guest. Inside floated one of her Polaroid self-portrait she'd snapped hours earlier in the porch, swing rolled tight like a message. Next to it in a jar sloshed lake water, a single wet footprint pressed on the photo. Claire's stomach flipped. The intruder had stood outside, watched her, entered, stolen keys, water from planters. No footprint shape matched tile smear. She grabbed the spray, bolted outside. A Subaru was back, engine ticking cool. Same expired tags. She scanned the tree line, no movement. Shivering, she jumped into her Civic and punched gas up the gravel. The phone pinged signal near the ridge. She dialed 911, then me. Deputies met her at a diner on Route 9. They entered the cottage at 8 a.m. and found it locked again different, lock-core, than the night before. The antler hook held a new set of keys tagged Claire. The jar was gone. Polaroid too. They dusted. Partial prints only. The landline, when traced, routed through a prepaid cell booster plugged into the Walno subscriber data. A canvas of neighbors turned up a caretaker who'd seen a silver Subaru parking at odd hours all spring, but assumed it was the owner. County records listed the property owner as Diane Trelawney, deceased since 2019. No relative named DT utility bills were paid via autodraft from a Kansas City account under a corporation dissolved 6 months earlier. Whoever posed as Larry and then as DT likely squatted there, stalking applicants until one arrived alone. Police logged it as burglary with intent. With no forced entry and no bodily harm, the case floats in limbo. Claire's contract shoot wrapped. She couch surfed the final weeks, never sleeping more than 2 hours straight. She mailed me the pepper spray can half empty from paranoid test bursts and the cottage contract with DT signature. We noticed the font on his e-signature matched a free template that rotates initials daily, making it nearly untraceable. Now, when she sees house sitter needed ads, she zooms in on window locks, cross-references obituary databases, and checks satellite views for dead-end driveways. Because somewhere in Burkrook Lake, a man in a ball cap keeps his expired tag Subaru idling. Jar in hand, waiting for the next quiet creative, desperate for a cheap summer rental, someone who will hear a floorboard moan and convince themselves old houses make old noises. Right up until the welcome basket dents the tile and the only phone that works is the one the intruder carries back into the woods. I wouldn't call Lily a friend so much as a relic from my old office, like one of those coworkers you swap memes with long after you escaped the cubicle farm. She handled product photography, and nothing made her happier than flipping vintage camera gear she found on Facebook Marketplace. Last October, while rain chewed at my apartment windows, she pinged our dusty group chat. She'd spotted a Canon A1 with 3 prime lenses for a price that sounded like a typo. The seller profile named Matty R claimed it was his late grandfather's kit. Pickup was set for the next evening, an hour north of town, cash only. Lily always took a friend to these meets, usually her roommate Key, but Key was hunched over a toilet with food poisoning. I told Lily to push the deal to daylight. She countered that the guy swore he worked nights and could only meet at 5 p.m. sharp, golden hour. She joked perfect light to test the camera. She shared her live location with me and 2 others, tossed a collapsible tripod in the back of her Civic, and drove off into the drizzle. The route wound through low farmland where cell towers thin out. Fog slipped over the pavement, blurring fence posts into faint charcoal strokes. Lily followed the map until it pointed her down a gravel spur called Briar Hollow Road. 2 miles of ruts later, she rolled up to an open cattle gate. Someone had propped a piece of plywood beside it, spray painted, "Park here" with an arrow. Beyond, a sagging farmhouse sat dark, but the barn off to the left glowed warm under a string of shop lights. She eased onto the packed earth. A man about her age stepped from the barn, flannel jacket, flapping, the DSLR strap slung across his chest. He waved, called her name first cue, but he'd memorized her profile. She returned the wave and texted "arrived" to our chat. I never got it. Signal must have died the second she hit the property line. Inside, the barn smelled like damp straw and kerosene heaters. Someone had dragged backdrops and milk crates into makeshift set pieces, as if half the structure had turned into an Instagram studio. On a heavy wooden table sat the promised Canon body, 3 lenses, a light meter, even a coil of fairy lights. Everything looked curated, almost theatrical. Matty introduced himself with a quick handshake, said the gear had belonged to his grandfather, but new priorities forced a sale. He invited Lily to test the shutter under proper lighting. The polite pushiness made her pulse quicken, but the equipment was clean and she couldn't deny the bargain. She lifted the no brassing, smooth advanced leaven, mirror foam intact. As she peered through the viewfinder, a generator coughed to life, powering a soft box lamp overhead. Yellow light slid across the barn's corrugated walls. Matty suggested she sit on a stool for a proof frame. A single frame, he said, would show the curtains weren't dragging at slow speeds. Lily hesitated. Marketplace meetups are supposed to be quick, but habit nudged her to verify the camera's guts. She perched on the stool, raised the viewfinder, and that's when she noticed 3 more stools stacked against a plywood partition behind. Natty. Each had a name scrawled on masking tape. Nat, L, and Cal. They were small, female names, but not unusual. What bothered her were the outlines scratched into the concrete beneath pairs of feet, etched over and over. Heel marks turned dark. She set the camera back on the table, dug for her wallet. Matty waved off the bills. Payment after the test shot, he insisted. As he spoke, something beeped from behind the plywood. Not a phone, more like a walkie pipping for attention. Lily's attention snapped to that partition. It was hinged, not fixed, and the gap at the bottom showed a second pair of feet boots motionless. But pointed her way. Maddie's smile stayed, but his eyes flicked toward the noise, then back to her. A nudge to hurry. Lily's gut finally overrode her thrift drive. She told him the shutter sounded fine. If he didn't want the cash now, she'd pass. She tried to slide around him, heading for the barn doors, but he stepped in front with a flash meter, twisting a switch that lit a red LED. "My process is quick," he said. The barn went suddenly colder, generator droning. Lily forced a joke about the weather, then bolted straight line sprint to the gap between sliding doors. She heard the meter clatter as Maddie lunged, boots scraping concrete. The mud outside nearly took her down, but adrenaline kept her upright. She threw herself into the Civic, hands shaking so badly the key fob slipped twice. Maddie slapped the driver a window-open palm, not a punch, almost pleading. She shoved the gear shift into reverse, fishtailed, then barreled down the drive. In the mirror, another figure stepped from the barn shadow, tall, hooded, something metallic hanging from her wrist. Both silhouettes vanished into fog as red taillights cut through the gate. It took 5 miles for a single bar of service to light her phone. She called 911 first, me second. I listened to her sob in a gas station parking lot while deputies traced the location pin she finally got out. When they arrived, the barn was dark, generator gone, camera gear gone. Inside they found only dust from recently dragged crates, the names still taped to stools. The farmhouse smelled of mice. Power had been stolen by a makeshift line to a nearby pole. Detectives canvassed the last 3 months of Facebook Marketplace listings. 2 missing women had messaged a different burner profile about camera equipment, then vanished. Their initials matched 2 of the names on the stools. No prints, no security footage, and the property owner was a bank in foreclosure. Maddie's profile deactivated minutes after Lily sped off. Lily still shoots product photos, but only meets sellers in broad daylight, surrounded by chain coffee shop patrons. The A1 listing is long gone, but every time a deal pops up, that's too good to be true. She slides her phone across the table and asks if I remember those chalk outlines. I do, and I remember the way she whispered into the receiver that the man's hand on her window wasn't angry. It was disappointed, like losing a fish at the line. If you ever feel the floor tilt from great bargain to something is off, trust that tilt. There's always another camera, another antique, another desk upstairs. But there's only one exit from a barn where the generator hides. Background voices and the welcome mat is stamped with first names that never got to leave. I wouldn't say Tara and I are close. We shared a late shift at the campus security desk and traded caffeine pills during finals week. But she S-level-headed in a way most students aren't. She double locks her bike, sets phone alarms to move her car every alternate side morning, even carries a Sharpie to mark her pepper spray expiration date. So when she told me she nearly vanished selling an old iPhone, I listened hard. She de-upgraded to a 15 Pro and posted her Mint 12 on OfferUp for $350. Within an hour, a buyer using the name Nico R. pinged her. Profile 4 years old, dozens of 5-star reviews, all electronics deals. His messages were clean and short, no bargaining, cash in hand. Wanted to meet that night because he flew out early next morning. He suggested a well-lit public place, his words exactly, and offered Tara's own campus police lot at 8. Every box ticked green. At 7:52, she parked under the LED floodlights that make skin look more white. Patrol cars idled 30 yards away. A dark blue Mazda CX-5 rolled up. Headlights flashed once, just like Nico said he would. He stepped out wearing a puffer vest, early 30s, carrying cash counted twice. Tara liked that he didn't ask to sit in her car. She handed over the phone so he could verify it. He popped in a sim, scrolled menus. Satisfied, he offered the cash and asked if she still had the box that mattered for a gift. She did, but it was back at her apartment 3 blocks off campus. Nico hesitated, looked past her at the patrol cars, and asked if she minded grabbing it. He'd wait right here. Red flag, but Tara's apartment was genuinely minutes away, and Nico's profile felt legit. Leaving him alone with the phone was a power move she figured proved his honesty. She told him to keep the phone for now. She'd swap the box for cash at her place, where street parking was easier. Nico smiled, agreed, followed her Civic taillights. Her block runs one way with angled parking on the right and a half-lit basketball court opposite. 2 lamps were out that night. The court looked like a slab of wet ink. She parallel parked under the working light. Nico slid in behind, engine running. He stepped out, phone in hand, but stayed on his side of the Mazda. Tara ducked into her entryway 10 steps. Keypad door, lobby light triggered by motion. She didn't bother locking the outer door. Nico was visible from the hall. The phone box sat on her kitchen counter with the unused earbuds. She grabbed it, and impulse, a printed square receipt she'd saved from the upgrade people, like paper proof. Through the peephole, she saw Nico where she left him, scrolling. Safe. Back outside, she crossed the sidewalk. Nico pocketed the phone and produced the half-folded cash. As she reached, he jerked his wrist, and notes fluttered to the ground. Reflex made her crouch. The moment her gaze dropped, a rear door on the Mazda cracked open. A second man sprang out, black hoodie, surgical mask, stepped silent. Tara saw only the gray blur of duct tape looped like a bracelet around his fingers. She screamed raw, uncontrolled, which startled both men more than it rallied help. Hoodie mask lunged. Tara spun, phone box flying. She sprinted for the lobby, metal door still ajar. Nico cursed, grabbed her arm, but polyester slides on wet concrete. He slipped. She slammed the door, punched the code with shaking thumbs, felt the lock thunk as hoodie mask smacked glass. The hall camera light clicked on tiny red Annie. Both men froze. Campus security cameras are obvious bubbles. This one was a $10 Wi-Fi puck her landlord installed. But appearances matter. Nico yanked the hooded guy, hissed something, and they bolted to the Mazda, door slamming, tires squealing into the dark court exit. Tara's knees quit. She slid to the floor, pulse roaring. She punched 911. The operator heard her breathing before words came. Patrol cars rolled up 3 minutes later, same officers from the campus lot. Bodycam timestamp placed them on Tara's curb at 8:28 p.m. The Mazda was gone. Officers recovered the iPhone box crushed by a tire, earbuds scattered. They swept the asphalt and found the duct tape loop, unused. Cash? Nico's bills were photocopies sliced from a color printer, single-sided. Detectives traced Nico's OfferUp account, real, but hacked that afternoon. The original owner was in Phoenix, selling a drone. The Mazda's plate captured by campus cameras belonged to a rental reported stolen 2 days earlier. But the camera outside Tira's lobby saved the best clue, a clear shot of Hoodie Mask's left hand. On his inner wrist, a tattoo of a chess knight inside a circle. Gang unit flagged it as a regional crew who specialize in blitz robberies, grab and tape jobs that end with victims forced into trunks, driven to remote ATMs, then dumped. 2 similar cases had happened county over that week. Victims met buyers at malls, were abducted when retrieving forgotten accessories. Tara spent the next month house-sitting her parents' place, unable to look at her own hallway. She deleted every selling app, sold the iPhone to a reputable refurb site for half what Nico offered. Campus PD added a poster near the swap spot. Meetups end on campus grounds only. No follow-along requests. Sometimes Tara texts after midnight if she hears tires outside. Masked a ghost again. We joke to bleed pressure, but both of us know predators don't always drag you to isolated parking lots. They can lure you from the safest. Meet spot by dangling something as simple as an original box. The next time a polite buyer asks you to fetch a forgotten accessory, remember the duct tape loop, the tattoo caught by a dummy cam? In the moment, good lighting turned into your only escape route.